Greetings, members, one and all of the Salivation Nation, celebrating Columbus Day in silver. Let's explore! What you're looking at here before you is a very special coin. This is the Colombian $50, 90% silver from the United States of America. A beautiful coin indeed, showing Christopher Columbus facing right. And on the reverse, we have inscribed here Columbian Exposition. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But also looking here, it says 1492, which was the year that Columbus first discovered some islands off the coast of the Americas, and was likely not aware of what the Norse had done and really kind of abandoned merely less than 100 years before. And that is some sort of colonization of the Americas. And likely Christopher Columbus didn't know he reached the New World, but he took great risk for sure and able to do so for multiple different reasons. And this coin is dated 1892, which commemorates that anniversary, and also is the very first of the early commemorative coins that the United States Mint partook in that time. And that led to these coins being minted in half-dollar form and other denominations, dollars, and also some gold, $2.50 and other gold coins that were created throughout this time, but mostly $50 until 1954. The commemorative program would not continue until 1982 with another $50 commemorating George Washington's birth. But this coin is quite a fascinating coin that I think would probably trigger some people because of the image of Columbus and how the schools and our education system has twisted his legacy. And it's quite unfortunate, but I'm going to go back through here and we're going to talk a little bit about it. No, he was not a perfect man by any stretch, but we're going to give a little bit of detail and insight about this holiday. And October the 11th is the date that it's set because of how Congress changed it in 1971, but actually the day itself is on the 12th. It's on the first Monday of the October, unofficially celebrated in a number of cities and states and as early as the 18th century, but not become a federal holiday until 1937. And it was under the presidency of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, a Democrat, who made it that. But since then, there have been some people who have been against Christopher Columbus for several reasons. And in the 70s, there's people who have been proposing an Indigenous Peoples Day to replace Columbus Day. As you know, Christopher Columbus was this Italian-born explorer who set sail in August of 1492, bound for India, essentially, in Asia, with backing from the Spanish monarchs King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. He did a lot of work just to get funding for this trip. And he was aboard the ships the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. He intended to chart a western sea route to China, India, and the fabled gold and spice islands of Asia. Instead, on the 12th of October 1492, he landed in the Bahamas, becoming the first European to explore the Americas since the Vikings established colonies in Greenland and Newfoundland during the 10th century. And by the way, they were able to colonize those areas well into the early 1400s, with some trade going back and forth between Europe, but it was kind of sparse during that time because it was sort of the end of the Viking era when that occurred, and things had changed. But nonetheless, in October that month, Columbus sighted Cuba and believed it was the mainland China. In December, the expedition found Hispaniola, which he thought might be Japan. There he established Spain's first colony in the Americas with 39 of his men. In March of 1493, Columbus returned to Spain in triumph, bearing gold, spices, and Indian captives. The explorer crossed the Atlantic several more times before his death in 1506, thereby establishing really that contact between the Old World and the New World. It wasn't until his third journey that Columbus finally realized he hadn't reached Asia, but instead had stumbled upon a continent previously unknown to Europeans. In other words, the Norse did not really understand where they had went either. Vinland up there, essentially down the St. Lawrence River, in that area, was thought to just be some other land, but they didn't have any idea that it was a whole new territory and a whole new hemisphere across an ocean. But nonetheless, the first Columbus Day celebration took place in 1792 when New York's Columbian Order, better known as Tammany Hall, held an event to commemorate the historic landing's 300th anniversary. Taking pride in Columbus's birthplace and faith, Italian and Catholic communities in various parts of the country began organizing annual religious ceremonies and parades in his honor. In 1892, Benjamin Harrison issued a proclamation encouraging Americans to mark the 400th anniversary of Columbus's voyage with patriotic festivities. And one of those festivities is the Columbian Expo. On that day, let the people so far as possible cease from toil and devote themselves, as Benjamin Harrison wrote, to such exercises as may best express honor to discoverer and the appreciation of the great achievements of the 4 completed centuries of American life. For it is indeed true that without Christopher Columbus, we would not have the United States of America. We would not have realized that we had embarked upon a journey into this new world and to expand and found a nation that has become the most powerful nation on earth, founded on the ideals of limited government, personal responsibility, and freedom. Liberty recognizes that freedom. And so therefore it is quite interesting to see where it is. And of course, as I mentioned before, Roosevelt proclaimed Columbus Day, but going back to that expo, the irony is, as that expo, which recognizes Christopher Columbus and his journey across the sea, which, by the way, was a great threat because at the time, the majority of the science community believed that the Earth was flat. So there was fear that he would literally sail off the end of the edge of the Earth. So he could have died in that regard. Of course, it was a dangerous journey anyway, sailing across the sea. Regardless, it had remained dangerous for quite some time. But in 1892, this Columbian Expo held in Chicago brought forth from that expo the first recognized American serial killer, H.H. Holmes. Yes, indeed. And which is kind of interesting that had occurred there, and it was utilized, and he took advantage of that expo and people staying at his hotel to attend the festivities, only to be murdered. All right. Nonetheless, now there is controversy over Columbus Day, and that dates back to the 19th century when anti-immigration groups in the United States rejected the holiday because of its association with Catholicism. But in recent decades, Indians and other groups have protested the celebration of an event that resulted in the colonization of the Americas. And by the way, the term Indian was coined by Christopher Columbus. And people don't use that. People say Native Americans. But you know what? I'm a Native American. I was born in Ohio. And so that is native kind of just means where you're born. But nonetheless, indigenous people is probably the ones that's probably a more correct term. He because he thought he was in India, perhaps, and said Indians. But essentially they protested because it is the beginnings of the transatlantic slave trade and the deaths of millions from murder and disease. Of course, the irony is people want to essentially trade they want to trade in Columbus Day for Indigenous Day. But, of course, one thing that you have to understand is that slavery is not just limited to white Europeans who founded a new continent. And, there's been slavery going on. And by the way, slavery is colorblind, and which is quite interesting. It says, so they want to celebrate Indigenous People Day, who actually practiced an even more ruthless form of slavery and conquest than what the Europeans did. Of course, you come to the Americas, we have all these different tribes killing each other and taking over lands and slaughtering innocents in other tribes and other areas. And it's quite interesting that they want to trade what they consider an atrocity and horrible person that Christopher Columbus was for people who have been doing that for hundreds of years, maybe even more than that, thousands of years before Christopher Columbus even arrived. But nonetheless, very interesting indeed. And so that's where we are at today. And I would say that we should recognize Christopher Columbus. He was not a perfect man, for sure. I guess there's rumors of him being cruel to people and the like, but some of that we really don't know for sure exactly if he had imposed these barbaric forms of punishment, including torture. Certainly, all of that we should condemn for sure, but that does not erase his legacy, and it does not mean that he didn't have some valuable, obviously, without him discovering the Americas, well, where would we be? So there you have it. So I believe in Columbus Day, and there's where we have it. And this coin celebrates it. And yes, look at that. Look at that coin. Let me know what your thoughts are on Columbus Day here in the United States of America. A multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch this video, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.